Hey everyone, Joey with Angel Eye Guy here. Today I'm going to be installing a set of Angel Eyes on this E46 330 Ci. It is a ZHP. This one is applicable to E46 Facelift Coupes from 04 to 06 that are not M3s. Let's get started. First thing we want to do is remove the top weather stripping and bottom headlight trim. Now that we have the weather stripping and bottom trim removed, we'll go ahead and remove these two 8mm screws here. Also, there would be an 8mm screw right down there where that hole is, and there'd be a second one right inside of here. See if we can get a shot of that. Let's see here. Right down there is where the fourth one would be. Now that we have those 4 screws taken out, we can go ahead and slide the headlight forward and out and remove all of the connectors in the back. So we had removed 5 connectors, one for the turn signal. There was one at the top here which plugged in there, and then there was 3 that went into the ballast there. We're going to go ahead and remove that, and we can set this on our work table. First thing I want to do is spin the headlight around. I'm going to remove this little vent there and remove this torque screw. That is going to be a T20 torque screw. We want to go ahead and remove that. Also, we can remove this so it's out of our way. It just twists and slides right out. Once we got that one out, we're going to also remove this one right up here. Now that we got the screws out, we're going to be using our heat gun here to heat around all of the edges here so that we can soften up the glue and we can pull the lens apart. You can also bake the headlight where you're going to take this and put it in the oven. You can put it in the oven, some people say you can do for 7 minutes at 250 degrees. You can also put it in at 200 degrees for about 10-15 minutes, just as long as the glue gets softened up. If you are going to be baking it, I would recommend removing the headlight bulbs and removing the ballast as well, just so nothing gets damaged. So using the heat gun, I'm just going to go around and slowly heat up the edges of the headlight. I got my settings set at about right in the middle. Doesn't take a whole lot to get the glue softened up. So if we want to go ahead and do that all around the headlight, then we're going to grab a flathead and start prying apart the lens. So now that I got my top section here heated up, I'm going to grab my prying tool here and start prying the headlight open. You can also just do this with a regular flathead. You also do have clips up here, so you want to make sure you lift up these clips as you're prying it so it doesn't get stuck on there. Once I get the top pried open, then I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing to the bottom. So now that I got the bottom heated up, using my prying tool, just pry these open, and then from there, once you get it pretty much free, then you can just pull the lens right apart. So once you got both sides pried, then you can just pry the lens right off. And there you have it. So now that we got our lens off, we're going to go and remove these 3 torque screws. You got one here, and one more down there. And we're going to take the whole inner bezel out. Now we got those screws out, we can go ahead and remove the turn signal. And then we can also remove the bezel. And this is where our angel eyes are going to be mounted. So on this headlight, we are going to be blacking out the headlight. So we're going to be painting all of these chrome pieces black, including the high beam and the turn signal. I won't be showing how that's done. Everybody has their own way of painting it. But these little chrome rings are removable and you can paint those separately. And I think we're going to be painting the high beam bowl on there, because taking that apart is a little bit of a pain, so we're just going to be covering everything up, removing the bulb and blacking that out. We're also going to be installing our wiring harness and also testing our angel eyes just to make sure everything is working okay, and show you how that's done. First we're going to do is mount our relay bracket. We're going to go ahead and loosen and remove this 10mm nut. Now that our 10mm nut is removed, we're going to go ahead and install our relay. I find it easier to mount this sideways first, that way you can thread the nut on there. Once you get the nut threaded on there, then you can turn it facing downward. Now that we have our relay bracket, we're going to go ahead and open the positive terminal there. We're going to want to open this one up and open this one using a 19mm socket. So went ahead and opened up the two 19mm nuts. We got the red positive going here, and we got the black negative coming there, and the red positive is a little slit right in there. It can fit right through there, so you can also close the gasket there. And next we're going to show you how to test angel eyes. So we got our angel eyes connected. So you got the 4 rings and you got the 4 connectors. These ones are the Opaque 120s. So we're going to get our white wire here. I'm going to touch it on the red positive terminal, and that will trigger angel eyes to turn on, just to test and make sure everything's okay. Once everything is tested and looks good, you just go ahead and remove that white wire. Our white wire is going to go through here and tap into the interior footwell light. First thing we want to do is go ahead and remove the rubber grommet there. We want to go ahead and make a slit in the rubber grommet and go ahead and stick our white wire through. Next, we're going to come down here and stick our white wire down in there. And you want to feed it through a little bit, and we're going to be pulling it out from the inside of the car. Coming down underneath the passenger footwell, we're going to want to go ahead and put our fingers underneath here, and we'll feel for the white wire. Once you feel for it, you can go ahead and grab it, go ahead and pull it out, and also pull off the light here, just like that. I'm going to be looking for this red wire with the blue stripe running through it. We're going to grab our red T-tap. I'm going to wrap it around that wire. And then we're going to use a pair of pliers to crimp down so it can penetrate the wire. Once we get that put on, we're going to grab our flat connector here, and it's going to go right and slide right inside of there. Once we've got that connected, we can go ahead and put everything back together. Now it's all back together. Now we can go work on the other trigger wire. We're going to grab our red wire here, and it's going to go inside our ECU box here. We got 4 Torx screws. They're going to be a T25. I'm going to go ahead and remove those. Once we got it open, we want to go ahead and look for this red wire. So it's actually a red with white stripes and yellow spots on it. We're going to use our yellow T-tap and tap in there. So we got a yellow T-tap. We're going to wrap it around the wire, squeeze down on it with pliers, and it should clip in. And then we're going to grab our red wire, and it's going to plug right in there. Got our red wire plugged in for ignition, and we can go ahead and put our cover back on. We've got everything put back together. This is going to allow our angel eyes to be on while the ignition is on or while the car is running, whether the headlights are on or off. And then our white wire was for our lock and unlock feature. So as the headlights, or not the headlights, but the angel eyes, when you unlock the car, they will turn on, and then if you don't open any doors, they will go ahead and shut back off. And then we'll just also go ahead and put our grommet back into place. So now that we have everything painted, we're going to go ahead and install our rings. So in this application, both the rings are going to be the same size. Sizing would be on the back, so these are both 106 millimeters. on the low beam, the ring is actually going to fit around here, and on the high beam it's actually going to sit right on top. So using our double-sided tape, we're putting it on the high beam side, which is the center side. You can just place it anywhere around the ring. On the low beam, I would recommend placing the double-sided tape closer to the inner edges just so it can touch, but we're also going to be putting a little bit of epoxy on the back end just to make sure it doesn't move. So here we got both rings installed. Also want to make sure the wiring comes out towards the top, and on the back end just put little small amounts of epoxy just on those corners just to make sure it doesn't come undone. You can also put it on both sides just to make sure it stays in place, but you don't want to make sure you don't overdo it and it just seeps out. Next, on our corner light, we're going to just make a small little cut right here in this corner. That way our wires can go through without getting pinched. Now we have that little corner snip. Now we can install this back onto the headlight or onto our bezel. Then we can go ahead and install everything together and run the wires through. Now that the corner is cut, you can go ahead and feed your wires through, and then you can go ahead and put the screws back in, and we'll get the rest of the headlight prepped. Before putting the headlight lens back on, we're gonna go ahead and add more sealant on here. We're gonna be using the Morimoto Retro rubber resealing glue. You can also use butyl tape. You can find that anywhere. You can find it on the Retrofit Source, Amazon, eBay, etc. So we're gonna go ahead and do that before putting the lens on. Okay, now that we have applied the sealant all around the headlight, I'm gonna go ahead and heat this all up and go and put the lens back on. Also, it's a good time to also run the wire through. The opaque 120s or the standard 120s will have the black box on there, so you can always remove the black box just to fit it through the headlight and then go and put it back together. So we're gonna be passing it through the top here, and it's coming out of top of the headlight there, just like that. Also have new headlight lenses on here as well. So we're going to go ahead and start heating up the headlight, and we'll go and put the lens on. So go ahead and put your lens back on. You want to go ahead and just give these a nice squeeze. You want to see kind of the sealant seeping out of there. That way you know that it has a tight fit. Go ahead and do that all the way around. And you can see the wiring is just coming up through the top, and it's going to exit out of here. Now that the headlight is all sealed up, we're going to make a passage for the wiring to exit. So what we're going to do is create a hole right on top of there, and that way we have a spot where wiring can come out. We got everything put back together. Got our caps put back on. We got our screws all put back on. Now we're ready to install it back onto the vehicle. Now that we got everything plugged back in, Angel Eyes plugged in, and everything hooked up back together, we'll go and grab our remote, hit unlock. It should turn on. And then we'll go ahead and turn on the ignition. So with the ignition on and the doors closed, Angel Eyes should also stay on. All right, next thing is to just clean up all the wiring and zip tie everything together, and almost there. So with the wiring, we got to tuck down into here, coming up here, going across there, tucked into here, all the way across, going down here, zip tied into there, also coming down here, and zip tied into there as well. Once everything is done, close your hood and you're all done. And enjoy your new angel eyes.